Now, presented in digital widescreen.
Tonight on Live at 5, interest in purchasing Pekin's high school's West Campus, remembering those who served our country, and new details tonight about the resignation of the CIA director. Good evening, I'm Ashley McNamee. There is new fallout today following the resignation of CIA Director David Petraeus, all because of an extramarital affair. Senior lawmakers say the FBI waited too long to tell them or the president about the investigation that ultimately exposed the affair. NBC's Daniel Lee has more on the concerns about national security.
Lawmakers are criticizing the FBI for initially keeping secret an investigation that led to the downfall of former CIA Director David Petraeus.
And to have someone out there in such a sensitive position who the FBI thought perhaps could have been compromised or was under the scope of a FBI investigation, who may or may not have been having an affair at the time, that to me had to have been brought to the president or certainly to the National Security Council.
Government officials say the investigation started out months ago as a potential case of cyber harassment. Jill Kelly, a friend of Petraeus, said she was receiving anonymous threatening emails. The FBI traced those emails to Petraeus' biographer, Paula Broadwell, and in the process discovered she and Petraeus had had an affair. A former spokesman for Petraeus said this of the relationship.
The affair started approximately 2 months after he was in the CIA, and it ended about 4 months ago.
According to officials, the FBI didn't report the incident to Petraeus' boss or Congress or the president until concluding its investigation last week. The president accepted Petraeus' resignation Friday.
It is very puzzling and I think was a mistake because this thing just came so fast and so hard. And since then, it's been like peeling an onion.
National security expert Roger Cressy is defending the FBI.
But once the FBI concluded there was no national security breach by the CIA director, there was really nothing there.
Cressy says he's more concerned about what happens next as Congress investigates the attack in Benghazi, Libya, as of now without testimony from Petraeus. Acting CIA Director Mike Morrell will testify about Benghazi and Petraeus' place later this week, but Congress says at some point they will likely call on the former four-star general to testify as well. In Washington, I'm Danielle Lee, NBC News.
Congressional leaders from both parties are heading to the White House Friday for round one of negotiations on the fiscal cliff. They have until the end of the year to agree on huge spending cuts or automatic cuts kick in, and every American will see an overnight tax increase. But the president and House Speaker John Boehner are each drawing a line in the sand over letting those Bush-era tax cuts expire for Americans making more than $250,000 a year. Speaker Boehner wants a tax overhaul that raises money by cutting loopholes. If they can't hammer out a spending deal by the end of the year, the nation goes over that so-called fiscal cliff and taxes will go up for everyone by an average of almost $3,500 a household. And there will be deep automatic cuts in both domestic and defense spending that could, some believe, hobble the economy. After sitting vacant for about 15 years in protests over demolition in the past year, a Pekin developer says he is interested in restoring Pekin High School's Old West campus. Pekin businessman Randy Price has made a proposal to the city of Pekin. He says he wants to acquire that property from the current owner, Merle Huff. Price then wants to buy the building from the city for $1. He plans to renovate the building for part of civic use and part office space. Price says his business is doing well and he wants to help the community by saving this building.
Look at the beauty that they spent on doing this building. There's no way you could afford to ever build that building again. I think that, like my kids and other kids need to look, hey, this is where, over 300,000 people went to school here. There's a lot of memories there, and we need to preserve what little we got left.
Pekin City Council will discuss the matter at tonight's council meeting. It begins at 5:30 at Pekin City Hall. Americans across the country continue to salute the nation's veterans today. On Sunday, millions of Americans marked Veterans Day with parades as well as other events. Today marks the Monday holiday, and the commemorations continue. In observance, city, county, federal, even state offices were closed, as well as many banks, courts, and libraries. Well, students at St. Joseph's School in Pekin had the chance today to not only honor those that have served our country, but to learn from them as well. Local veterans from World War II, Vietnam, and Iraq spent the morning talking to students about a variety of topics, including why it is important for Americans to honor and remember veterans.
I'm glad to see that we are getting more recognition. I don't particularly want it for myself, but I think as a nation we have to realize what happened.
As part of today's celebration, students also released doves on the school's playground, a symbolic gesture of peace. Well, those 70-degree temperatures have certainly moved out of the area, perhaps for the last time this year. Now we are settling in to the chilly but clear conditions. And a good question to ask this year, how long is this trend going to be sticking around? For that, we head to our Chief Meteorologist, Chuck Collins, live in the Weather Center with a first look at our forecast. Chuck?
All right, Ashley. Yeah, we were expecting the big change. 72 Saturday, 25 this morning, but it was still a shock to the system. And now it's a very benign and quiet weather pattern, just a little bit colder than normal, but we'll gradually make that up as the week goes on. Let's go outside to our Canton cam, and nice sunset in the west here this evening. And we're 36 at the airport right now, 24 in the morning, and then 44 tomorrow afternoon. So below normal temperatures continue, but we make a run at normal by the time the latter part of the week and the weekend roll around. I'll have that forecast coming away in just a couple of minutes.
All right, looking outside right now through our Road Watch camera network, a view here of Interstate 474 at the Shade-Loman Bridge, where there is construction crossing over both lanes. There you can see it's not causing any problems with traffic out there tonight, and we will be keeping an eye on that throughout the newscast. Meanwhile, many students in New Jersey returned to school today for the first time since that area was hit by Superstorm Sandy over 2 weeks ago. 98% of schools in the state are now open. Despite the damage and destruction left behind by Sandy, school officials say they are optimistic about getting students back into a regular routine. In the meantime, Governor Chris Christie says power has been restored to a majority of the state. More than 190,000 people have registered for assistance from FEMA, and so far $127 million in funding has been approved. Lance Armstrong has cut all ties with his charity organization Livestrong. Armstrong stepped down as chairman of the cancer-fighting charity in October, but he did keep his seat on the board of directors. Now, in an effort to avoid tainting the organization with any more negative fallout from the investigation into his cycling career by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, Armstrong's also resigned his board seat. He was banned from cycling earlier this year following the USADA claims that he used performance-enhancing substances during his cycling career. Armstrong says he's not going to challenge those findings in arbitration because he feels the entire process is biased against him, and he points to the hundreds of drug tests he's passed over the years. A statement from Livestrong says Armstrong's resignation took place effectively on November 4th. One local social service agency expects to feed hundreds of additional people this Thanksgiving, and they're looking for your help. The Southside Mission in Peoria says it expects to see a 15% increase in the number of people receiving Thanksgiving Day meals from the agency. Executive Director Phil Newton says the Southside Mission has received calls from local group homes and communities like Deer Creek, Mackinac, asking them to deliver meals to their residents.
We rely on the community for our support, and therefore organizations that have been hit by a lot of government cuts have reached out to us and asked us to bear their burden.
Newton says last year volunteers delivered more than 2,600 Thanksgiving meals. Next week the volunteers will begin the huge task of preparing the turkey, stuffing, and all those fixings for the holiday dinner. If you'd like to make a donation to the Southside Thanksgiving meals, you can call the Southside Mission at 676-4604. Just ahead on Live at 5, why your Thanksgiving main course could cost you a little more this year. Plus, you may be skipping that second helping of turkey as more stores announce they're starting Black Friday on Thanksgiving night.
You're watching your home team at 5 with Ashley McNamee and Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins. This is News 25 Live at 5.